An update on the Ohio murders, a travel advisory placed on the U.S., and more stories are up next. Newscene starts right now.
Good evening. Today is Monday, April 25th, and I'm Laura Ricky.
And I'm Willie Mantinelli, and here are your top stories. 8 members of a family in Pike County, Ohio were found on Friday, murdered execution style. The victims were found in 4 different locations throughout the county, which is about 100 miles east of Cincinnati. Marijuana growing operations were found at 3 of the crime scenes. In addition, children were found there. Children aged 4 days, 6 months, and 3 years respectively, all unharmed. One of the civilians shot was the mother of the 4-day-old. According to Ohio law enforcement, the attacks were sophisticated and pre-planned. No suspects have been apprehended, but at least one suspect is believed to be at large and should be considered armed and dangerous.
The UK government has updated their foreign travel advice, encouraging British citizens to avoid traveling to America's southern states. The warning comes as difficulties in the South are arising surrounding attitudes towards lesbians, gays, bisexuals, and transgenders. The warning cites new legislation passed in both North Carolina and Mississippi that negatively affect the LGBT community. The UK Foreign Office website's warning reads, quote, "The US is an extremely diverse society and attitudes towards the LGBT people differ hugely across the country," end quote. The UK is not the only group of people acting out against the legislation. Celebrities have canceled concerts in North Carolina, and tech giant PayPal canceled a large-scale investment plan involving the state. As these laws are passing, they're harming both the economy and the reputation of the nation.
Virginia Governor Terry McAuliffe used his executive power to restore voting rights to felons. This sweeping order will restore voting rights to over 200,000 convicted felons. By putting this into law, Governor McAuliffe has effectively overturned a Civil War-era provision in the state's constitution that aimed to disenfranchise black voters. Republicans in the state legislature are resisting this executive action, accusing the governor of, quote, political opportunism. Virginia Republican Party chairman has stated that there should be limits to voting rights in the state, and felons do not deserve the right. This decision will stay in effect until at least January 2018, when the governor leaves office. Analysts expect the massive amount of new voters to have a significant impact in the coming 2016 presidential election.
You often hear reports of stray cats and dogs, but what about a tiger? The Conroe Police Department received numerous calls last Thursday about a tiger roaming the streets of the city. The tiger, wearing a collar and a leash, had been evacuated from a rescue farm in Harris County because of severe flooding in the region. The tiger was given to a person in Conroe who was not prepared for her, and she escaped. A man who encountered the tiger, Jonathan Gessner, approached her and had a friendly interaction with her. He said, quote, "She, out of nowhere, took off running towards me, put her paws on my shoulders, and started licking me in the face," end quote. She was taken to a shelter after her capture. While there are legal ways for residents to keep exotic animals in Texas, there are local codes in Conroe that prohibit residents from keeping or harboring dangerous animals in the city.
Good news for residents of Geneseo, as the Association for the Preservation of Geneseo has promised that Emmeline the bear will return. The Main Street fountain was struck by a delivery truck just a few weeks ago, toppling Emmeline from the perch she has sat on for almost 130 years. Contracting companies have spent hours taking pictures and measurements of the damaged fountain, working to figure out how to best go about making repairs. The Association for the Preservation of Geneseo has started a GoFundMe page in order to raise funds to help with fountain restoration. The CEO of Upstate Milk, whose truck struck the fountain, has promised to, quote, do things right by the town. Officials are also discussing ways to better protect the fountain from future accidents. Geneseo Mayor Richard Hathaway has stated that, quote, there is overwhelming support for Emmeline to remain. There is no fixed date, however, for when Emmeline may return.
SUNY Geneseo senior Grant Cusick has received a National Science Foundation Graduate Research Fellowship. He is the first undergraduate student to receive the award at Geneseo. The award is a prestigious award that supports research and education in non-medical fields and is given from a federal agency. Cusick will be starting the fellowship in July at Johns Hopkins University in a life sciences and microbial lab. The GRFP helps to ensure that the vitality and diversity of the scientific and engineering workforce continues. Cusick himself spoke of the momentum the grant will give him in this early in his career, seeing it as an opportunity to further his independence as a young researcher. The Director of National Fellowships and Scholarships at Geneseo, Michael Mills, said, quote, "Over the years, Geneseo's alumni have been successful in obtaining these awards, but until now, only after they started graduate school," end quote.
So what will the weather be like this week?
The answer and more of your nightly news when we come back.
Starting in 3, 2, 1.
Welcome back to Newscene. Now, here's the update on your weather news. This evening, we can expect rain showers with a low of 40 degrees. Looking ahead to later this week, Tuesday we can expect rain showers in the afternoon with the temperature reaching a high of 43 and a low of 31 in the evening. Wednesday will be mostly sunny with a high of 57 and drop down to a low of 32 in the evening.
Thanks, Will. Stay right here on GSTV.
Good evening, Geneseo. I'm Brian Somar with your health news. Autism experts at the University of Washington are bracing for a flood of interest starting Thursday as they help launch the nation's largest ever autism research study, which will seek DNA and other information from nearly 50,000 U.S. families. Nearly 300 Seattle area families have enrolled already in the pilot stage of the study dubbed SPARK, which is sponsored by the Simmons Foundation Autism Research Initiative, or SFARI for short, based in New York. The goal of the project is to identify genetic markers for autism, a range of brain development disorders that affect 1 in every 68 children in the United States. According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, by studying the genes, along with associated biological and environmental factors, scientists may be able to learn the causes of disorder and link them to symptoms of people with autism. We'll invite families to come back in to see how that gene impacts their particular kid's expression of autism, said Bernier, who is also clinical director of the Seattle Children's Autism Center. Parents are really eager for this, said Vigo, 57-year-old, a mental health therapist in the UW Autism Program. The more specific we can get about our child's unique autism profile, the better. This disorder we call autism is not the same for every child. It's pretty different. Men who are heavy pot smokers in their teens may not live as long as those who did use marijuana when they were young. A new study suggests researchers examined data from more than 45,000 men in Sweden who did compulsory military training in 1969 through 1970 and were followed until 2011. About 4,000 of the men died during the 42-year study period. Those who were heavy marijuana users in their late teens were 40% more likely to die by the age of 60 than those who had never used the drug before. The investigators found, because this new study covered a longer period, 42 years, the men had reached ages when the harmful effects of previous marijuana use, such as cancer, lung and heart disease, were more likely to develop, the researchers said. Interestingly, the risk of death from either accidental injury or suicide among the men rose in accordance with their level of marijuana use. As teens, researcher Dr. Edison Marika Garcia from the Karolinska Institute in Stockholm said in a journal news release. Annie is up next with your entertainment news. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Annie Renaud with your entertainment news. On Friday, an autopsy was conducted in hopes of finding why the music idol Prince died. However, it may be days or weeks before the results are determined. According to Carver County Sheriff Jim Olson, when Prince was found, there was no apparent signs of trauma. He believes there is no evidence that Prince committed suicide. Prince died on Thursday at age 57 and was found at Paisley Park in an elevator at his home in Chanhassen, Minnesota. To pay tribute, fans have been gathering at Paisley Park, leaving flowers, balloons, and signs, some wearing Prince's signature color, purple. Geneseo's Department of Theater and Dance will present the student-directed Love and Laughter in Repertory. This production will last from April 18th to April 22nd at 7:30 p.m., and there will also be a matinee on April 23rd at 2 p.m. The show will include two of Moliere's one-act comedies, The Jealous Husband and The Forced Marriage, as well as original twists from students. The production will involve audience participation, and actors will be playing several different roles in both of Millier's works. Tickets are $10 and can be purchased in the Student Association ticket office, online, or at the Brody box office.
Thanks, Sammy.
Thanks for tuning into Newscene.
Remember, GSTV can film your clubs and events. I'm Willie Mattinelli.
And I'm Laura Ricky.
Thank you and have a good night.